Hi, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our regular Thursday evening get together. And thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are. We welcome you, and it's good to have you. So, I guess, as is always the way, there's so much to talk about. We've got about the next 90 minutes or so to try and at least cover some of it. So, I hope you'll find we've got a range of topics to get through, as is always the case as well. I mean, when I'm trying to choose the stuff to talk about, I try to make it as up to date as possible. You can see it, those of you watching, you can see it on screen. We're going to chat about Clacton. What does Farage victory mean? Can reform recover the momentum they've lost? What will it mean if they don't? We're going to talk about a migrant in every postcode. Do your bit, says Andy Burnham. Are you going to do your bit? We're going to talk about Boeing Boeing 737 sized super dinghies crossing the English Channel, and good old Vodaphone making sure that those illegal invaders can get their mobile phones working. Really important. Want to talk about President Trump defunding gender transition surgery even further. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about also today's A-level result day. Now, I know that for some of you, that's maybe been quite a long time ago, but I just insult all my guests instantly. But where should people now go? Where should young people now go? Chat about all those things. But first of all, let's bring everyone, Jed, into the studio here. So this is Adrian, Patty, I think, has joined us as well from the US of A. And first question for all of you, which has nothing to do with what I've just talked about. Did you all survive the solar eclipse, and are any of you blind? Chad.
Sorry, who said that?
I just said that.
Who said what? I did see the solar eclipse, only little bits of it, because I didn't have any glasses. So what did I do? I took the advice of the BBC to use my mobile phone. For our American viewers, that's my cell phone. Turn it into selfie mode, put my back to the sun, and use it as a selfie. Have a guess how well that worked? Just about as much as BBC News telling us the truth.
Well, Jed, do you know something? My wife did exactly the same. She did exactly the same. Mind you, I actually looked at. I decided I'm going to look at the sun, but only for about a few milliseconds, and then I decided there was clouds, couldn't see very much. So yeah, BBC advice. Mind you, Jed, somebody made a fortune, absolute fortune, selling those. You see the stupid glasses that they were wearing?
The people in the car next to me kept passing them over so I could have a quick look, which was really kind.
Adrian, did you get to see the solar eclipse, and how did it go in your neck of the woods?
I tried to see it, but there's too many clouds in the way, so I went to the cinema to watch the Odyssey. I was hoping because of the solar eclipse I would have been transported into some other reality, i.e. 2,500 years before Christ, in the time of the Greeks, because they seem to be more clued in than we now seem to be.
Was it a quick question? Was it any good, the Odyssey?
It was all right. It could have been better, to be honest. They've pandered to the woke Hollywood mode. Helena Troy was black. They had trans people in it. There was a lot of the story that they didn't really put in. I just think it could have been better, but I am someone who has read the Iliad and the Odyssey, so I am sort of hypercritical of it.
Yeah, it's done very well at the box office. I think it's taken in $1 billion. It's huge numbers, by the way.
No, don't get me wrong, Nolan does make a decent film, but I just think it could have been better, and to really explain the story to people, I think he could have started with the Iliad and then set the scene. And to be honest, the Odyssey journey's that long, it could have been split over 2 films, to be honest. But that's my own personal opinion.
Paddy, over in the US of A, I guess you guys must have had the solar eclipse as well. Did you get to see it?
No, I didn't. I wasn't even aware of it. To be honest, which is a rarity. I usually catch those things, but it was so cloudy here, and off and on raining. It wouldn't have seen it anyway.
It's good to see you staying on top of all the topical issues.
All the main topic affairs, yes. The solar eclipse. They're darkening. They're darkening the sun now. If they could figure out a way to make it racial, I'm sure it would have been, would have been much more aware.
I'm sure, Paddy, I've heard some in the States talk about things like, we need to dampen the sun for racial reasons. I'm sure I've said,
Well, the climate people have been trying to. That's been a favorite of the climate, the climate wackos of over the years. When we were going to freeze to death, they were figuring out how to get us to let more sun in, and then now that we're melting to death, they're figuring out well if we how to block it on a larger scale. Just let nature be nature.
Well, just for those watching this, Jed just brought up actually, really, Jed, but if you can stick that image back up there of the actual eclipse, which I see you have there, Jed. Yeah, there you go, folks. Anyone watching, it's not a very good if you're listening, mind you, but if you're watching this, that's what it looked like as the moon moved across the face of the sun, which is actually an interesting one for the flat earthers, because how can that happen if it's a flat Earth? Any thoughts on that, Adrian?
I tell you now, mate, they'll have some thoughts on that.
Chad, you're too cynical. Right.
Yes, just not ready for another rabbit hole at this point.
Well, Jed, Adrian, we're only about 7 minutes in, but there's plenty of time for rabbit holes. So look,
But I want to know, how did it look to the people living on the moon?
well, yeah, Paddy, this is the thing. Yeah, I mean, well, of course, Elon's once he's built his moon base, it'll be robots looking at it though, won't it? So that's gonna be weird. I wonder what there's a nice picture there. Look at that. Jed's brought it up, folks. It is spectacular. But frankly, so Lynn says after the eclipse, who jumped in the car at 1:30 with a child to watch meteors? She did. Well done. Look, there's a lot of things like this when they happen. If you get to see them, it's fine. Where I was, actually, I was at my son's house last night when it happened with my grandkids. All I saw was it got a wee bit dark and then it got a bit brighter. And I can experience that by closing my eyes and then reopening them. But it's not as exciting as these images. Right.
I tell you who didn't see it. Bonnie Tyler.
Oh, that's too soon. Too soon.
Oh, it's not. It's never too soon, David. Never. I'm an ex-squaddy. It's never too soon. 30 seconds after it, it's not too soon.
Well, listen. Apparently, did you know that apparently Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Hearts has been streamed? Big uptake in streams of that in the past 24 hours. So yeah, interesting. Great song too, by the way. Great stuff. Great Jim Steinman song. There you go. There's another.
I don't think Lynn likes my jokes.
Yes, he's cringing. Hey, Lynn, we all cringe. This is secret. But anyway, listen, we're moving on to the agenda now because we've waffled enough. Right. As we sit here talking tonight, folks, the good people of Clacton go to vote for their MP. Who will be their MP? And as you know, Nigel Farage triggered this about a month ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And he decided he was sick of all the attacks on him and the accusations, financial impropriety, and all that. So he said, right, I'm going to go to the voters and they can decide, which I thought was fair enough. And then the Uni Party, meaning everybody actually, everybody bailed and said, oh, we're not putting up candidates. We're getting behind Count Binface, the ever so not funny BBC approved, private eye endorsed, sort of joke candidate, as it were. And so that's what's happened today. The people at Clacton are going to vote on this. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, everybody, because looking at the bookies, Nigel Farage is 1 till 100, or 100 to 1 on to win. So he's going to win this. And I think he'll win it with a bigger majority than he got in 2024. How do you guys think it's going to go? Jed's got it on the screen, just saying it. This is Nigel Farage. Yeah, I mean, he's going to win.
Sorry.
Yep, no, that's okay. But I mean, the guy's under massive pressure. You got to respect that. So anyway, I think it's going to be a big victory for Nigel. It's going to be absolutely talked down by the media. And I just want to talk about the consequences as well, because the other thing to say to you, everyone here, is that Reform have been falling in the polls. and they're now behind Labour by maybe a point or two. Now, does that mean much in the greater scheme of things? I don't know. So, Jed, come to you as a reform supporter, which is a perfectly sensible position to have. Do you think Nigel's going to win when the results announced tomorrow morning? And more broadly, what will it mean, if anything?
I think he has to win. I think that is the ultimate. He has to win because what he's done is he's put himself forward there as a candidate for the people, and the establishment is out to get him, which is why he called for the by-election to start with, or he stepped down. And I've got an image there of Farage yet again, people getting close enough to him to throw stuff in his face. That could have easily have been acid, or even concrete, which burns, obviously, as it dries. I think he has to win it, David. Yes, I know they've dropped in the polls at the moment, but I just think that's Burnham bounced. We've seen this sort of thing before. New leader, the party seems to, but look at the policies that Burnham is on the campaign. He's on the campaign trail. That's what he is for a general election, and they are more to the centre of politics than what Starmer was. But in the end, it's still socialism, and the British people don't want socialism. So I think Farage will win. But if he doesn't, it's going to be devastating for reform.
Okay, yeah. Adrian, what's your thoughts on Clacton and what we're going to see unveiled in the next 24 hours?
Oh, God, where do we start? Well, I think it just shows the state of British politics that no other party was willing to put up a challenge to Farage. They're willing to bash him day in, day out in the media. They're willing at every opportunity to label him far right and link him to Tommy Robinson and all these other people, but yet they won't mount a serious challenge. And it just shows how much contempt they have, that they're willing to let a parody stand in their place. Like if Farage loses this, I don't think there's any way back. I don't think he'll be able to continue with his political career, to be brutally honest.
Well, if he loses, Adrian, the British bookies are going to go bankrupt. So,
But again, do we trust these polls and do we trust the elections, to be brutally honest?
Well, do you think there's a chance that Count Binface might win?
Well, I wouldn't put it past them because, as I said, the fact that no other party is willing to stand because they want all the votes to go to Count Binface to take Farage out. Because look at, they're attacking him daily, non-stop. This whole business of the £5 million payment, which helped trigger this by-election, as Jed rightly pointed out, he's being attacked, with milkshakes and all that. That could easily be acid. But no other party was willing to stand as a serious candidate against him because they want all the votes to go to Binface. And if Binface does win, that is the end of Farage. There's no way he can come back from that because that will all...
Sorry. Carry on. Can I come in after Adrian, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, carry on. What you're saying.
I was just going to say, if he loses to Binface, that will always be battered out against him. Anytime he tries to talk about anything serious, they'll just say, "You lost the bin."
I understand that, and I'm not disagreeing with you on that point. But what I think it shows is the establishment parties know they wouldn't have won. And to not allow the people of Clacton a fair crack at the whip at the relevant selected candidates, so to speak, from Labour and from the Tories and the Lib Dems and Greens and all the others, I think shows that they actually fear him. Because what they didn't want, I believe, is egg on their face going, look, Farage is the evil man, and look what he did with Brexit, and look what he's done, what he wants to do with migrants, and so on and so forth. And then to lose to him would only bolster him and reform totally. But the easy way out for them is to say, well, we didn't stand. We would have won if we'd have stood. Because it's easy to say, well, we would have. Well, no, you wouldn't. because, to be honest with you, people don't want you. So if Binface wins, it's because the establishments have gone round to every single one of their supporters and said, you will. And it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me in British politics now if people have been paid to vote for Binface.
Yeah, I think the thing is that you're right, Jed. You're spot on. Paddy, I'll come to you in a sec. The reason that the Tories didn't want to stand is that polling shows them at 6% in that constituency, 6%. So they'd probably lose their deposit. Labour were less than that because it's not a Labour constituency. So the Uni Party didn't want to go up against them, and that's the truth. And I forecast here and now with absolute certainty that he will absolutely romp this. And I do understand the concerns, Jed and Adrian, about how crooked our electoral system is. But Paddy, you're watching this from the States, and this is Nigel Farage standing against a man with a bin on his head. How do you perceive, what does that speak to you about the state of British politics?
I think if they really wanted to beat Farage, they should have put a burqa on it instead.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, probably. That would, well, in some places that would have been a guaranteed victory, Paddy, over here.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, come on, man. And that basically that's what they're saying anyway. You got Farage is basically running on a populist platform, and the other established parties are not for a populist platform. They do not want traditional British citizens ruling. They have made the transition. They just need the rest of you to come up to catch up to speed.
Yeah. Could you imagine,
David? Sorry, because of Paddy's line. You should have put a burqa on it. Is that a line from a song, or is it you should have put a ring on it?
Close enough, Chad. Close enough. Yeah. But Paddy, could you ever imagine in the States a populist leader having to, wanting to stand to get himself re-elected, and against, like in this case, a cartoon BBC approved character such as this so-called Count Binface? It's not really.
If they could have figured out a way to do it legally in the United States and they thought one would work, both parties would have run a cartoon against Trump. Problem is you see, I can't believe that, what's it say to the state of British law and British politics that a masked person, because you don't know for sure if that's what that is underneath that bin, a masked person can run for office, right? You don't, it's not important what, it doesn't matter whether they're a man, a woman, a female, a citizen, a non-citizen, a human being. They could be from Mars. They could be one of Elon's robots. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the point about it really is, though, it's the contempt, Jed, that the Uni Party shows for the voters of Clacton. I mean, Clacton is a very working class, pretty run down constituency. Yeah, that's what it is. To be truthful, that's what it is.
But Farage proved his point. Farage proved his point. None of them had the cojones to stand up against him. And what do you call it? The bet is not whether or not he's going to win. It's whether or not he gets more votes than he did last time.
He will. I reckon. I'll call it now. He got 49% of the vote in 2024. I reckon he'll get about 70%. And check me out tomorrow morning to see if I'm right or not. But so that's a victory. But all the establishment parties, Jed, they'll turn around and say, well, it meant nothing. You're up against a bin, so you could beat a bin. But don't worry. If the Standards Committee does a recall and forces another election in this, then we're going to be ready for you. That's what they're going to say tomorrow, Jed. The BBC will mock and laugh, and there'll be pictures of Farage and Binface side by side. That's what they want. And that does talk about our democracy is so messed up, Chad. So messed up.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because if Binface wins, they'll use that against him. If he wins against Binface, they'll use that against him. That's what he was trying to get across. But the bottom line is, if Binface wins, I think we need to speak to Paddy and ask him for the 700 million guns that they've got.
So contrived. So I could just see you setting that up.
Yeah, but he's got built-in armor, man. That could be a metal bid.
No,
you
not
gotta
with 50
watch,
cal.
man. You need.
But
Not with those 50 cals I've seen, mate. I tell you. But yeah, either way, they're going to use it against him, David.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit sad. Adrian, just a quick one for you before we move on. You know, Reform have been dropping in the polls over the summer. That's do you think that's just a short-term blip thing, or do you think, you know, come the autumn and normal politics resumes, they'll zoom back up again? What's your take on that, Adrian?
Well, first of all, do we really trust those polls? You know, who's conducting them, and what is the sample? What is the sample size as well? You know, and who are they actually asking? I just don't. I've gone off the Farage bandwagon myself, and I know plenty of other people that have too, because he's just not shouting enough. He's not kicking up enough about certain issues. He's went cold on certain issues as far as I'm concerned, and I have seen a lot of people jumping ship and jumping behind Rupert Lowe, because Rupert Lowe is talking the language that they really, really want to hear, where Farage has tried to distance himself from so many things.
But you see, where I would disagree with you is, well, no, I agree and disagree with you, Adrian. You're right in many regards what you say. However, and this is where I think Jed and I are aligned in this one now, almost 100%. Reform want to actually win. And from what I can see looking at the UK, whether there was, you know, a general election, Adrian, next year or indeed in 2029, it's only Reform that has a chance of winning. Restore might have great ideas and all of that. They don't have infrastructure. They don't actually necessarily have financial backing. They do not have an organisation to win outside of the army.
Reform is the reject party for the Conservatives. Too many from the Conservative Party have jumped ship over to Reform, and part of the problems we face today is down to the Conservative Party. Some of these problems were occurring when they were in charge, and they've done nothing. And the fact that they have jumped ship to Reform gives me no faith, no confidence in Reform whatsoever.
Yeah, I understand. But then how can you explain Rupert Lowe standing candidate down in Aberdeen South so the Tories could win?
Sorry, pardon me. Again, was that maybe the best use of his resources? I don't know. Maybe he realised deep down that he wasn't going to win that seat, and best to save your ammunition for elsewhere and try and grow your...
Yeah, but hang on,
That's
Adrian.
the point, though, isn't it, Adrian? I don't think Rupert Lowe and Restore are going to win very much of anything. And
that's what I think.
You know,
yeah.
So yes, and I've always said, I've said for 2 years more now, that Reform are not the ultimate answer for this country. And I always said they are a stepping stone. Now, maybe, let's say Burnham calls an election this year. It's getting more likely. I think he's on the campaign trail right now. You know, and even Greg's have now got the sausage the sausage roll thing saying eaten by the Prime Minister. That definitely means I won't be buying one because I don't buy political products. And I certainly don't stuff them down my gullet. I'll stuff anything down my gullet, but I'll rephrase that. I'll eat any. I'll rephrase that too. I think the point is that, as you said, David, they're not in a position where Reform are. And maybe not this general election, but the next one, they may very well be in a position to then step on from Reform, or maybe two election cycles away to step on from Reform.
This country hasn't got 2 election cycles, though, to be brutally honest.
I think it has if it's a Reform the next one. If it's a Labour next one, I agree with you. I don't think we have.
We're cooked, as they say, if that happens. But
just like Greg's Burnham melt, as another monkey says.
I see that, the Burnham melt. It's so appropriate that it should be. Anyway, listen, I wanted to we'll move on from Clacton, and as I say, I think the polls close at 10 o'clock. And I imagine by tomorrow morning, we'll waken up to the result. And I expect a clear, unambiguous Farage victory. So we'll see what happens. Right. I just wanted to check out, especially Jed and Adrian, and especially you, Jed, actually. Andy Burnham has come to your rescue. Andy Burnham has said, now that he's in charge, he's realized there's a problem with cross-channel migration. And the problem with cross-channel migration isn't that it's happening, and we'll talk about the scale of it in due course, but it's that the migrants are apparently going to too many kind of like working class areas. So it's time now for everyone to do their bit, roll up your sleeves, and accept migrants in to the leafy suburbia, to Middle England. You know, apparently in places like the Lake District, the Peak District, down in Devon and Cornwall, there's not enough illegal migrants down there, Jed. And I just want to know, will you be making sure that you're doing your bit by accepting them? What do you think?
I definitely will be doing my bit by ensuring that my door's locked and my friends are well protected with those 700 million guns I borrowed off Paddy. But my point is, they're not going in the Cotswolds, are they? No. They're not going in the in Hampstead. No. You know, where Ricky Gervais and the likes live. Absolutely not. They're not going in the best of the London postcodes, are they? No. Somebody's got their mic on and they're making. Is that you, David? Are you on your laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you typing. So the thing is, they don't want to solve the problem. So what they think they're doing is spreading the problem across the country. And that's not going to work. That's just going to antagonize people. Like, you know, there's a house being redone next door but one to me. And I have fears that it will be filled with illegals. There's an hotel around the corner, a very old hotel. It's been through many phases of its life, Victorian. And it's currently being restored on the outside, so to keep its original Victorian outlook. And it's being turned into flats. And it says luxury flats. Well, that's where we put our migrants, isn't it? In luxury accommodation, 5-star hotels. So I can guess that it's going to be chock-a-block with them too. You know, so as he thinks, oh, well, all these people that have stamped their feet in places, you know, in Essex and such like, wherever the latest one, they've stuffed them. If he starts to spread them out, he's only going to antagonize more and more people because more and more people are getting absolutely peed off with all this.
I think, Adrian, you know, sorry, Paddy. Adrian, Jed's right though. It's like Burnham is saying, look, there's a bit of you've got a cancer in that part of your body, so the solution is you've got to spread it all across your body, and I don't think it's going to end well for him at all. What do you think, Adrian? And then Paddy, come to you.
As much as I want them gone yesterday, this is a blessing in disguise because there's too many of these liberal lefties in well-to-do areas are telling us we need to take these people in, and they're not actually seeing the damage and destruction that's being caused by these uninvited guests. So once it starts getting a lot closer to home and they do not feel safe in their own areas, whether it be due to sexual attacks, whether it be break-ins with homes, whatever, I reckon their tunes will start to change. And I think then that will be the thing that helps change the attitude amongst certain politicians, because once it starts moving into their leafy areas, I think then they'll realize the mess that they've created.
I saw a comment, Adrian, someone stuck up on social media that in the aftermath of Andy Burnham's announcement that the middle class areas have to take migrants. I did laugh. Somebody said, well, that's the Lib Dems going to be radicalized if ever they were going to be radicalized, you know, because as you say, if you go to those areas that we've talked about, you know, like the Lake District, like Peak District, Devon and Cornwall, it's lovely areas who tend to vote, they vote left, like they vote left. And now they're going to get it good and hard. Yeah, there's
once they start getting mosques in their area, and you know, once they get a mosque built, then there will be thousands of them going. And then once they realize that their kids can't get school places, they can't get hospital appointments, they can't get all the things that they're used to, their attitudes will soon change because it's just been in the working class areas. It's been very easy to label certain people far right. You're just far right because you don't want these people. You're racist. So let's see now how they cope when it's slap bang on their doorstep and hits them a real smack in the face.
Paddy, you've been following this. Well, what do you make of this notion that now it's up to the middle class areas to take, as Adrian puts it so euphemistically, uninvited guests?
I think we got to share the wealth. That I'm a firm believer in. But also, too, and I have a question. Where is Piddington? Piddington.
It's Oxfordshire. Oxfordshire.
Okay, because Edwina Curry suggests that they need to start setting up brothels in places such as Piddington so that these immigrants have they don't have to rape or pillage. They can just go to the brothel.
Yeah, Jed, have you got that clip of that extraordinary comment by Edwina Curry that
I thought that was wonderful.
Sorry, David, is it on your feed?
Yeah, I think it is. If you just do a quick check in X, Edwina Curry brothel. Paddy, you're dead right. And by the way, Edwina Curry was a government minister.
It says former conservative minister Edwina Curry suggests a policy of brothels in villages near asylum seekers as a way to reduce sexual violence.
Yeah,
it's quite ironic, really, to be honest, considering the number of politicians who are themselves out these days for different causes. Sorry for the language, but
it's an incredible story though that Adrian and Paddy's mentioned. I saw that, and I did a double check to make sure. No one would be that stupid or cynical, maybe both.
I saw it's a film of her saying it. It's on Reformer on Twitter, and a guy Jack Hadfield retweeted it.
Yeah, I Jack Hatfield, he retweeted it, Jed. It's like she's doing an interview, I think it's for Times Radio, and she says that it would be maybe a good idea to help the uninvited guests to set up brothels so they can have their sexual release in brothels rather than raping.
How about set up travel agents to help them get back home?
Do you know, Adrian, it's such a mad world we live in. But this one from Burnham to me, well, Paddy, like you wouldn't get this, would you? This is the equivalent of saying people like living, in the Hamptons or whatever, have to take the Mexican drug dealers and stuff like that.
That's like Martha's Vineyard, man. You saw what happened when one busload of immigrants landed there.
Yeah, they bust them straight out, didn't they? I mean,
they called the army.
Yeah, well, I was with as well, but in fact, actually, Reform got themselves into deep water this week, which I didn't really understand, for saying that we should use the Navy in the. This is an amazing one, guys. Reform said, look, we're going to stop these migrants crossing, and we're going to talk about the size of the boats that come in a minute. That the Royal Navy should be deployed in the English Channel and stop them all. Apparently, the Royal Navy said, no, we're not doing that. I mean, what's the point in having the Royal Navy if it won't defend us? I mean,
the Royal Navy will follow orders. That's what the Royal Navy will do.
Yeah, you're right.
If not, the fleet commander or wherever he is should resign instantly and lose his pension. That is his
fleet.
Duty.
You got a fleet somewhere?
Well, it's a couple of boats. But when do you call a couple of boats a fleet? When it's the UK.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean you're right, Paddy. What fleet? But yeah, you're right as well that it's the head of the Navy or whoever.
He's Sea Lord, isn't he? He's called.
He's going to do as he's told by the politicians, isn't he? But did you think it was a good idea by Reform, Jed? Because some people have criticised them. But I thought.
What is your armed forces for, other than to protect your nation?
Correct.
It's exactly what they are there for. We are being invaded, and I know politicians, when you use that word, they melt. It's just like using male and female. They melt. They go into internal confusion. But we are being invaded by thousands of migrants every week. And that is what our armed forces are for. I think we should have our 2 ships in the channel. We should have our 20 soldiers that we've got left all with 50 cals on the White Cliffs of Dover. And anybody comes within our waters that is not on a legal vessel should well, now I'll be careful because we're on YouTube.
Be returned. Yeah, I totally get it. Adrian, do you agree with with Jed there? I mean, the Navy really should be told to defend us, and when our government won't tell it to defend us, does that not make our government our enemy, Adrian?
It does, 100%. And the fact that Stormer's now gone and Burnham said that he would tackle the small boat issue, they've now increased in size.
Problem solved.
Yeah. Actually, Jed, and let's get Jed to bring up, if you can't, Jed, a picture, Adrian, of what you're talking about. There was this massive dinghy came across, the biggest one ever.
I'm looking for it.
It's carrying two. It's certainly on my Substack. You'll definitely get it, Jed, because I'd written an article called 230. There was 230 people on this so-called inflatable dinghy, and I actually did a Google search, and the average EasyJet 737 flying from Paris to London carries about 175 people. That's the official data. So this dinghy is carrying more people than a 737. So Adrian, that's the scale of invasion. So there's fewer boats coming. Yeah, I mean, there's one picture. I think, Jed, if you scroll down, that was what I was talking about.
So, what I don't get is, right, the government is bound to know the companies that are selling dinghies this size. Okay? So why are they not going after them?
Who bought it? Who bought it? This is not a piece of equipment that a bunch of starving migrants got together and pitched in their cigarette money to turn around and purchase. So who in your government is supplying these boats?
I think it's the French government.
Someone contacted me to tell me. I'm just going to check my sound, by the way, in a second. Just to finish this. I believe a government. This is going to kill you guys. I believe that dinghy that you're looking at, if you're watching this, the video of this on screen, it was a government contractor who supplied it. I kid you not. So,
but what I can't get is, do we not have any officers within our Royal Navy who are absolutely appalled by this and are not willing to have a conscience or a backbone and call this out? Because surely when they signed up to the Royal Navy, this was part of the job, to protect our borders, to protect the seas, to protect the country, and every single one is feeling in their duty to do so.
Yeah. Well, so Paddy, did you see that massive 230 seater that crossed the channel there earlier in the week?
You couldn't miss it. Yeah. No, but that's what I'm saying is these vessels are not. These are not dinghies. These are inflatable boats. 230 people is a huge craft. If you can carry, to carry, like you said, a full size jet won't carry that many people. Your average, fishing boat can't carry that many people. This is people are buying these and providing them, and that's what needs to be exposed.
Plus, as well, like a wee small outboard motor is not going to do that. It's going to need 2 or 3 big, powerful engines, and they're not cheap either.
No.
Guarantee you that's got navigational equipment.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick audio check.
The sound is woeful.
There's a bit of echo now.
Right, I'll change settings here. You guys talk while I just sort this out.
Just mute your mic then, David, otherwise. Right, I muted it for you. Okay, so I agree. I do really believe that this is government sponsored, because these boats, has been rightly said by everybody, these boats are not cheap. Yes, they're going to need decent motors to push them across the channel, and they need, I think, the cover of a government to get in the water. I mean, we've seen, haven't we, where the French police have been questioned and all they are allowed to say is, don't do that, it's dangerous. Well, yeah, don't do that, it's dangerous. Don't do that because you're invading our country, you're breaking our immigration laws, and we should and must defend our borders. Adrian, what do you reckon? Oh, Paddy's back. Sorry, David's back. David, give us a sound
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, I'm just a quick 1, 2, 3 testing. This better sound okay because I'm not going to.
Well, it's better than what it was. So
Right,
we'll
better.
wrap it with it, David. I know you're in a secret location on operations.
Yeah, undisclosed location. But yeah, no, listen. I believe that the governments are involved in this. But did you guys see that Angela Rayner piled in the other day, and she said, well, she thought the French were doing everything possible, and furthermore, there's a lot of women and children on those dinghies. Have you noticed that, Adrian? All the women and children on these dinghies? Because I sure as hell ain't.
They must be below deck in the cabins down below. Or maybe they're in the lounge, watching a movie somewhere, because unfortunately all I saw were fighting aged men. Has been the case. The only time we hear about women and children is when one of them dies. And to be honest, it's probably because they've been sexually attacked by some of these people on the boats, because that seems to be their sort of MO, doesn't it?
Well, did you see the story about 2 women apparently had died on one of these dinghies, and then the story went quiet, Adrian? And I think
I'm not surprised. The smell coming off some of those men would probably knock you out and kill you, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that the women are necessarily any better, but yeah, I know, and theoretically, yeah. So I don't know. I just looked at, Paddy, the scale of that vessel, we may as well have basically a fleet of jumbo jets flying across 17 miles across France, and
You've got a ferry service. It's a ferry. They're ferrying people over. This is government sponsored, this is an actual ferry. They're that call it what it is.
I'm actually really disappointed, considering how much our politicians haven't done about climate change. They're letting them use these diesel motors to ferry across the channel when we've got a tunnel that they could perfectly walk under the sea on and not create any more, harmful gases into the atmosphere.
But there's no money to be made there, is there?
I'm just being facetious.
I know, mate. I know you are. I just remember though, David, you still got I think it's when you type in, you fade out. Just remember, guys, if you're enjoying the show, please remember, buy David a coffee. The link is on screen now.
Yep.
Every penny is welcome.
Every penny is not only welcome, but it's needed. All of this malarkey does cost a few pounds, So,
Jed, as an ex-military man, do you honestly believe there's nobody in that Royal Navy is sitting there itching to get tackling these boats, or do you reckon they've all just capitulated?
I do believe there are many, if not hundreds, because I won't say thousands, because we haven't got that many. Hundreds of trigger-happy people who are willing to take target practice, as we say.
But then another angle to this was, did you see that? And again, this is where I was totally supportive of Zia Yusuf. Vodafone. Did you see that Vodafone, which I think it's now French-owned, but anyway, Vodafone are apparently supplying those migrants on the French shores with SIM cards, so that they can then, when they get in their dinghies, their phones can then basically operate. Did you see that? And Zia Yusuf said that if Reform get into government, he would take action against Vodafone, and I'd be 100% supportive of that. So basically, Vodafone, this is the truth, it's supporting the invasion of the UK. Jed.
Yes, and I got to be careful with words now, haven't we? Because of libel. But they are an active member of the what do we call them? The organized gangs. Because what Vodafone are trying to do is say, hey, have a SIM card. When you get to you've got X amount of data and text and minutes free. What they're looking at is customers. That's what they're after. So they're taking a tragedy and trying to get customers from it. Because if I was an illegal, in fact, I haven't got a passport at the moment. All I have to do, though, to get back from Central Europe is just go on a dinghy. Like, I'll get a mobile phone, I'll get a 5-star hotel, or I'll get a military camp somewhere in a nice leafy village. I'll get 3 squares a day. I'll certainly get my doctor's appointment and my dentist's appointment when I need it. And I'll get some cash in my pocket. and I can then go around and trash that local neighborhood, and nothing will be done. So we have to do something about this. Farage is absolutely right. We should be using our Navy. And if the head of the Navy will not stand up, if he's not got a spine to do the job of the government of the day, then he should resign and give back his pension too. Because his pension, I can tell you now, will be worth well over £100,000 a year when he retires. Well over. And he should give that back. And it's all gone quiet. David, you're on mute. I think David's still working on sound. What do you think, Paddy?
We're all playing silent on you. But
also, I thought I'm talking to myself, which is normal.
Yeah.
But usually,
as long as the voice that answers you is your own, it's okay, Jed.
Yeah, but it's when I lose the argument, though, Paddy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. That happens, you know. But now here's the thing: the head of your Navy is helpless. Like you said, push comes to shove, he's a soldier, Jed, just like we were. You know, at a certain point, policy is policy. It's not set by the military. Military enacts the policy that our government, you know, puts out. And this is the policy of your government, to allow to provide boats and allow you to be invaded.
I mean, that's the truth, Paddy. Actually, you've distilled it down really nicely there. And Adrian, he's right. The British government is the party that's destroying Britain. The British government. That's not bigger coat.
Yeah, but
I don't even blame the migrants, Adrian. Well, up to a point I don't. It's our government.
look, it's not just the politicians, David. It's the people. It's the organisations, the likes of Vodaphone. It's the likes of Mears Housing who are supplying the housing for all these people. There are many organisations. We have the judiciary who will not take a stand against them. We have the police who lie to us when they commit crimes. They won't release their, ethnicities and things like that. There's many people are committing crimes against this country by getting on the way they're getting on. And it's got to the stage is, what is it going to take for the rest of the country to wake up and say enough is enough? Because we're not at that point yet. But yet this has been going on now for several years, and it's in the news daily about these crossings, and yet there's still too many are sleeping.
Well,
sleepwalking into a disaster, to be honest.
Okay, since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister, which was back in July, so less than 4 weeks, we've had over 3,000 illegal migrants reach the UK because the weather's good and the crossing. Well, when you've got a Boeing-sized vessel, then it's massive. Paddy, I remember back when Biden was in power, and the U.S. border, southern border, was essentially being demolished by Biden to allow the migrants in. That's kind of what's happening in the UK, except we don't have a Trump.
No, and that's exactly what's happening. Is that you're under the Biden 4 years, the policy was to aid them into getting into the country, and that's exactly what your government is doing now. It has a policy of aiding these immigrants to come across the channel and get it, and they're spreading them around. They're moving them around. These people aren't just walking down from where they're landing to whatever towns they wind up in. How are they getting there?
They're being bussed. The government is bussing them.
Right, and spreading them out. Okay, we need some more. This is a little strong in reform. Put a couple thousand migrants there. Hey, this one's a little bit strong with, the other part. Put it over there. Let's see. Because that's what they're doing. That's what the Democrats did. They shipped them to every major Republican area they could think of.
It's a very good point. Very good point, Paddy. Jed, that's what's happening. That is what will happen under Burnham. And we've talked about this. The plan is then to allow all these people to be bussed into, let's call it reform areas, conservative areas, not Labour areas, basically. It's exactly a replica of what happened under Joe Biden, Jed, as far as I can see.
Yeah, and won't somebody think of the children? Yeah. Because what we are doing now, or what is being allowed to happen by our elite, so-called elite, is destroying our children's future. think of all those boys and girls, particularly girls. We've already had 2-3 decades of historic issues with people who are not native. So just think what it will be like in another 10 years' time if the Navy isn't deployed, if the soldiers aren't deployed. Just think what it will be like for those children. Me, you, David, and Paddy, of 20 years' time from now, 30 years' time from now, we're not going to be here. But our children will be, won't they?
Speak for yourself. I have every intention of being around, Paddy.
Really, David?
Really? God, I hope I don't live that much, that long. But at the same time, too, I would like to. But the thing is, the goal is Sharia. Under them, your children won't matter because your country will be under Sharia law. How many? That's the whole thing. The goal is you've been invaded. Now they'll start voting, and as they vote, they'll vote more. And then the first thing will come in is the blasphemy laws. Then the next thing will come in, it said you're going to be under Sharia law before 20 years.
Which is why J.D. Vance said that he joked, but maybe it wasn't a joke, that the UK will become the first Islamic nuclear armed nation. No, it's not totally true because Pakistan's.
That's Pakistan, yeah. I was going to say, and Pakistan and Turkey. Yeah,
but it was the UK he was focusing on. He did. I thought that's one of the things J.D. Vance said that I've agreed with. Adrian, this country is in such a bad state in so many ways.
David, we're already there. Let's be brutally honest. The head of Ofsted is a Muslim. We have multiple Muslim mayors of major towns and cities all across the UK. We have actual members of parliament who can barely string an English sentence together, who are being sworn in on the Quran.
Yep.
Let's not kid ourselves. Like, the enemy isn't at the gate. The enemy is well and truly inside the city and is almost on the verge of taking over. It won't take 20, 30 years, to be brutally honest. The way these numbers are going, it'll be 10 years if we're very, very lucky.
Well, I was on the Mike Graham show. Just let me finish this. I was on with Mike Graham the other day talking about, I'd put up on my social media a little video that someone had stuck up, Marble Arch in London. And so, except you wouldn't have known it was Marble Arch. There was this vast gathering of Muslims, Shia Muslims, I think they were, some kind of Muslim holy day. But it was in the public space. Any of you familiar with Marble Arch? And they were there in the thousands. And I was saying to Mike Graham that the reason this was happening was this was marking territory. They're saying, Adrian, they are the boss now. We are the captain.
Very much so. But why are we allowing them to serve in our parliament when they can barely string a sentence together? When they're swearing in on a Quran? This country was a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Since when was that allowed? And we now have a migrant who's in Scottish Parliament is trying to tell us rape is part of the spectrum. What is it going to take for people to wake up and just go, enough is enough?
Yeah, I didn't actually really give that much coverage, Adrian, but it's a fair enough point. Jed, I don't know if you saw that, but the guy concerned, he's a Green. He got himself elected to the Scottish Parliament. He's a Green MSP, and I think he was the one, if I'm right in saying this, who suggested that rape was part of a spectrum, really, and it's not.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, Adrian hits the nail on the head there. People like that, they shouldn't even be in this country, Jed, let alone being in the Scottish Parliament.
That's the point, isn't it? These people are in this country and they are being allowed to say that. Yet we can't say that this is an invasion, or we can't talk about grooming gangs, or we can't post things on social media. Yet you can have people like that say those vile things about the R word. We've got to be careful for YouTube about the R word. Yet we're dealing with historic cases, and these people are not really being put to justice. Why? Because we now have early release as well for these sort of people. And I just think that overriding, I can look after myself. I'm sure Paddy, Adrian, and you, David, can look after yourself. And I'm sure some good, strong women can too. But I'm going to get shot in the head for this. The weaker sex, as we look at it, which is our females, which our men are supposed to protect and supposed to cherish, we are laying them to the slaughter of this invasion of our country. And it's not through people like me, you, and Adrian and Paddy, and the people listening. It's by our elected officials and by not just them, but our institutions. And they are, they don't care about what could happen or what does happen. I mean, we see it almost on a daily basis now. Another report of an illegal coming in, and he's R-worded several people. I mean, there was one yesterday or the day before. He'd done it several times and murdered 2 or 3 times at least, I believe. And he's finally been given a full life sentence. But we now have to pay for him. And I object to paying for him. And I think we should bring back capital punishment. I really do. For these vile people who would pick on the most vulnerable people in our society. And I'm talking about girls and women, and do the most vile things to them. I think, one, they should be tortured first, and then they should face the guillotine. That is my personal opinion, but that is obviously not government policy.
So it's definitely not government policy. But Adrian,
Not yet. Wait till Sharia is in place, then the beheadings will begin.
Oh yeah, Paddy.
Yeah, I'll happily work that guillotine for you, Jed. I am the kind of person I would work 24 hours a day, and I would do it at a very, very cheap rate for the government.
So you're saving the British taxpayer, Adrian.
Yep.
In the event. But of course, do remember, nobody in Britain voted for the capital punishment to be done away with. That was politicians in the 1960s that decided. Liberal, hand-wringing politicians just didn't want to do it. And at that
but nobody voted for the invasion either, David, but it's still happening.
So I know, but why are we not holding them to account for this? Why are we not all, demanding that some form of referendum or something be done about stopping these boats? Because they're never going to stop it. They're just going to continue to let them in.
Adrian, the point is the people who make the laws and the rules are the people who are immune to the laws and the rules and responsibility. There was a policewoman, and I'll say a senior policewoman, I'm probably wrong there, who was fired from her job because she said was to the effect of cocks in frocks. Well, she's right.
She did say that. Yeah, you're right, Jeff.
Yeah, and I caught a glimpse, a bit of her interview on GB News. And so honest, decent, working people like all the people listening to the show and you guys, we are the ones that are going to jail, yet they're policymakers who destroy lives, destroy this country, who rape and pillage this country for their benefit with expenses and wages and you name it, private jets here and private jets there. They're the ones that get off scot-free. And I tell you now, if politicians had to be really accountable for what they do and what they say, we get a better class of politician.
We need to go back to that time, though, when we did hold them to account in a very, very different way, where they were, for want of a better expression, just dragged into the streets and then heads on spikes. Like they used to do in the 1700s.
Traitors Gate's been shut for quite a while.
Yes, and furthermore, Traitors Gate would not be big enough to cope with the sheer amount of traitors we have. But anyway, listen, we're going to shift it on from that because we are on YouTube, so that means we have to be, as Jed rightly observed, they're a bit careful with the words, just because YouTube is... I don't want to lose my YouTube channel, right? So you'll understand why we have to be a bit careful. But the next topic I think we can talk about, and YouTube can just deal with it. And Paddy, I'm going to come to you in this one because it's over your neck of the woods. President Trump I think, has been heroic in trying to deal with one of the worst things that I've seen happening in US and UK. And it's called gender realignment surgery, for want of a better word, where basically, you know what the deal is. So some teenage boy or girl.
Child abuse.
Well, yeah, it's all of the above, Paddy. And you know, back in the end of 2025, President Trump introduced legislation to stop federal funding for some of this, and then RFK in December of last year further emphasised that. And then I think a couple of days back, Paddy, again there was another executive order basically saying that Medicare and Medicaid cannot use any federal funding for anything involved in this kind of gender mutilation. And I look at that, Paddy, as, you know, I mean, I don't, as you know, Paddy, I agree with Trump on nearly everything apart from Iran. And on this one, I completely agree with Trump. I mean, he's doing the right thing, you know. And there it is. Jed's got it on the screen for those watching it. And I totally respect that. And I only wish that this country would do it. But of course,
And here's the thing, though. He's doing this, and it's being passed in laws all over the country, and the funding is stuff. And then, but you still have major John Hopkins had to be ratted out. I mean, they were demanded, if you're getting money for it, you have to stop these operations. Nobody cannot do any kind of gender adjustment on anyone under 18, and hospitals, huge ones, were like were still sneaking behind, and they had to have whistleblowers saying no, they're still doing these operations. You know, this is a mental disorder that has been pumped up and fed to our children by the teachers, by the educators, and they've polluted. You know, that is a huge problem in both our countries. The educators have been co-opted and are a major part of the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, but the other thing is the doctors who do it, Paddy. You know, a surgeon who actually, you know, engages in this, I think, should be criminalized. I think they should lose their license, because if the Hippocratic Oath starts with, you know, first do no harm, what hell kind of harm do you do to a young person in their teens when their genitals are, you know, removed? What sort of harm does that do?
Oh, they're, according to their view, they're not doing harm. They're actually curing a harm. The harm was God made a mistake and put a woman or a
Yeah.
man in the opposite's body. They're just fixing God's mistakes.
You're so true. Adrian, what Paddy said, I mean, I totally agree with Paddy. To me, that's why I call it demonic or satanic. The you know, the surgeons, the medics, all the medical fraternity who get involved in these gender surgeries. You know, there's no other way, because Paddy's right. They don't think they're doing any harm, Adrian, but they are doing incredible harm.
In my book, every one of them is as bad as Joseph Mengele for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And aren't we very lucky that it's only white kids that this really seems to be happening to? And we have tens of thousands of uninvited guests coming into the country now that'll help repopulate, now that our young children can't because they've been mutilated.
Mm. I mean, it is truly shocking. And here in the UK, actually, Adrian, here in Northern Ireland, last week I think it was, the health minister was talking about, yeah, maybe we should have puberty blocker trials on 11-year-olds. Say on 11-year-olds,
Yeah.
puberty block.
Again, there's no words to describe these people that I can say on air, to be brutally honest, because I don't want to get you suspended. But
No.
my blood boils every time I think. But it's not only the doctors, it's the parents too. The parents are encouraging this as well. Instead of telling the child, look, you're 12, you're 13, let's wait a few years, let's grow up, let your hormones settle down, and then we'll see how you feel when you're 19, 20. If you want to go and do that then when you're an adult, yes. But not when you're 12, 13, not when you have so many hormones running through your body and you're already confused about so many things. The parents have to bear a hell of a lot of responsibility. But having a trans kid is like the new equivalent of having a Gucci handbag kind of thing.
I mean,
Can I
Lynn,
just say, guys, I'm sorry, we seem to be having trouble with comments coming from X. So if I do see any, I will try and post them in a different way. But Lynn has just pointed out there, you can't even get a tattoo unless you're over 18. So, and yet we're mutilating
have your
children.
genitals, yeah, Jed, you can't get a tattoo, but you can have your genitals removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, does that? I mean, what's your take on this, Jed? Because as I say, I think Paddy summed it up well. That the doctors, the surgeons who do this, they don't think they're doing harm. I think they think that. Well, I'm not
But
sure.
this is because they've come from the institutions. They're the ones that have gone to the schools where, you know, boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and the universities and the other institutions. And so it is a mental disorder, not just for the child who is confused more often. And in fact, I'm going to say this percentage, and I know somebody will fact check me, but something like 99% of all children that are gender confused at ages 10, 11, 12, 13 end up being fine when they're just supported by and not convinced that they are in the wrong body, but just supported. You know, if Peter plays with a dolly at 10, it doesn't mean he's a girl. And if Jane plays with a tank at 11, that doesn't mean she's a boy. It just means they're playing with toys. So my point is, yes, it's not just the politicians who are pushing this through. It's not just the doctors and nurses that are supporting this, but it's also the parents who go along with this fantasy and convince their children that they are in the wrong body, and the best thing for them to do is to have bits lobbed off or bits sewn back on. And it is wrong. It is child abuse at its highest. And we stand and we sit here every week, and the newspapers go on about child abuse this, child abuse that. Won't you think of the children? Yet the institutions are the worst thing for children. All of them.
Yeah, I think you know, Paddy, coming back to what you said, that the GPs, the surgeons who do this and carry this out, I was trying to rationalize in my mind, Paddy, how do they do this and sleep easy at night? And then I look back to 2020, 2021, you know, COVID times and all that, and I remember what they did, what they said.
And also,
So doesn't surprise me. I'm not in the least surprised actually when I really think about it.
And also, too, you got to look at, and this is another thing too, with some of the parents and something. You got to remember, these children are being the educators have convinced these children since they've had since kindergarten that this is an this is something, this is an option, and the peer pressure upwards. That you, what do you call it? You have a child that in school is called something completely different than they are at home, and the parents find out, and it's like oh no, this is what we don't want to stigmatize, and your child will then wind up in trauma and everything else. So you back off. And you got to remember too about doctors. Doctors spend a minimum of 12 years in university. They're exposed to this insanity of way of thinking for longer than anyone in society.
Paddy made a really great point there, to be honest. It's the fact that these kids are now targeted from their 5, 6, being bombarded about sexuality and you know, private parts and all that. And they're warping their minds from a very young age. And if you've been warped with that for 5, 6 years, then it becomes very, very easy to convince a young child to mutilate.
It's programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is programming. Yeah. But the point is that ultimately, you know, when things like puberty blockers are given, or indeed when gender realignment surgery takes place, like that's it. That's you done for life. Like, you know, you're not ever going to be going back to what you were. And you read these experiences of people who have had the Hi Republican Rocker. Good to see you here. Better late than never. And you can listen to it all on replay. We were talking about you earlier, Republican Rocker. So check out the beginning. Honestly, probably, maybe. The whole thing is that you know, those kids are never going to be the same again, and that's an indictment on their parents, their teachers, and the medical fraternity. You know, but then, as I say, after 2020, really, when I think about it, Adrian, you know, that was the year I woke up, and I have therefore zero confidence in any of those bodies, certainly medical institutions and education.
It wouldn't surprise me the way this government is. It wouldn't surprise me if there's bonuses being paid to hospitals and doctors for carrying out this surgery. As I said earlier, look, it's only white kids that are being targeted with this.
Yeah.
And it's the white population that's now doing harm, because those kids will never, ever be able to reproduce white babies. And yet we are being openly replaced.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. But they'll never be able, yeah, exactly, Adrian. But, their whole sexuality is being mutilated. So,
In years to come, we're going to have a mental health crisis with all these people. Oh, you never told me this was permanent, and I didn't want to change my gender. I believe this is a ticking time bomb that's going to hit us 20, 30 years down the line. When all
I
these
think
kids
it's
finally realize.
Adrian, to be honest, because your average Joe, where I talk about it a lot, they see this as barbarism, that word. And right, I'll say this, but I don't mean it as it sounds. But the less educated of us see this as for what it is. It's your university types and your institutional types who, and the word doctrine was used. Doctrine is brilliant. And I know it's brilliant because you get taught military doctrine. Why? Because you need to follow those orders and do as you're told, and etc., etc., and etc. And that is where these doctors, they don't see they're doing wrong. The parents who are infested with this warped mind virus don't see they're doing wrong. What they see is us. We are the issue. Their child is confused, and they're helping their child to change their body to what they believe it should be. Instead of, as I said, saying, no, little Johnny, you're not a girl, but you can play with dollies, and then when you're ready, I'll get you a tank to play with. And Jane, that tank you're playing with doesn't mean you're a boy. It just means you like playing with tanks. It's okay. There is nothing wrong with that.
Do you think some of this is down to the fact that maybe parents ended up with boy and wanted a girl, and vice versa?
No, I think it's, in some cases, it's fashion. It's fashionable to have a child that is like that. I mean, look at all the actors and actresses who have multiple disability children nowadays. Yeah. And it's like a badge of honor instead of supporting that child. But my overriding factor is here, irrelevant of government, irrelevant of the institutions, the biggest institution that we have in this country that employs over 1 million people, whose sole job it is to protect and make better people, is actually the one that is causing the harm. And that is the NHS.
Yeah, you did right. Yeah, absolutely. The NHS is a cancerous organization.
Do you reckon if we had a healthcare system like the US, where they would have to pay tens of thousands of pounds to go through these processes, it would be a slightly different scenario?
Can I just clarify though, David? And I say the NHS, I know there are some fine people who work extremely hard at what they do. These are the thinking of the NHS chain of command, these are the lower down people. These are the people on the coalface. These are your care workers. These are your end of life people. These are those that actually give you the care right there at your bed. They're doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. And they're under pressure. Don't get me wrong. But it's the organization that is cancerous. It's the organization that's sucking money from this country and literally abusing our children.
Well, Paddy, to further to what Adrian said, I mean, in the States now, although I think it varies by state, doesn't it? But if you want to have, the gender surgery, you have to, well, it's not going to be, it will not be funded from federal funds under Trump. I think that's right, isn't it?
He stopped all federal funding for it and everything else. But then you have states like California and other places that will gladly help you pay for it and everything else. It is primarily, like I said, the change operations are more the affluent families. That's why you see the stars that have all these children that aren't what they were born as. But the it is very expensive, but they'll give you for free in school the puberty blockers and stuff like that in a lot of states. That just stopped because of Trump. The what do you call it? The schools will provide a lot of this stuff, and it's like, and that has just been brought us an end to. I mean, this is so insidious, and see, here's the thing. It's like in my view, is like, okay, this all stems from the LGBT movement, in the sense that where it's no longer okay. The big push in forever was the right to get married. The right to get married. They won that, and as soon as they won the right to get married and have it recognized, then they took that extra step. Then you have to do more. See, this is all the pushing of the thing. You can't accept that. Okay, the kid's gay. The kid's gay. Who cares? Just because they're gay doesn't mean, if a woman likes a woman, it doesn't mean she's a man. It means she's a woman that likes women, right? And vice versa. If it's a man that likes men, this has been a natural fact for the whole species. If you look back at your history, but I mean, nowadays it's like, oh, so now they're all of a sudden you're in the wrong body. Leave your bodies alone. See, it's very upsetting.
Yeah, no, very good points, Paddy. Salty Republican rocker says, "Hate the sin, love the sinner." Yeah, that's about that's certainly the biblical teaching in this. Yeah, it's. I'm so pleased in the United States that President Trump is there, and as I said earlier, I'd certainly disagree with him over Iran, where it's just embarrassing. But on 99% of everything else, I totally agree with him. And I'll tell you, Paddy, I worry about your country in 2028 because you could have a president AOC who
I worry
will,
about my country in 4 months.
yeah.
Yeah, I worry about my country in 4 months, and and just relax about Iran. It's still this is long
Uh,
from man. You got your knickers all tied in a knot there,
no,
David. Just
I was, hang on a second. I was absolutely right about Iran, and Trump's absolutely wrong because he's dithering and he listens to the wrong people. But, Paddy, to the point that you've got the midterms coming up in November, obviously, and you've said to me previously, and I took consolation from it, that you think it might be okay for the midterms. Do you still think that, or do you think the Democrats might just get control of either
no. I
one?
think I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be okay, but I think it's very. It's going to be very tight. I think if turnout is high, everything's safe. If turnout is low, then we're going to lose both the House and the Senate. And the Republican Senate is doing everything it can to make sure that that turnout is low, that the Republicans do not have a reason to come out and have anything to support, to allow the Democrats to retake control.
The
And
point,
if they retake control, I still have faith that I think everybody's pissed. I think what the news is missing and what a lot of the politicians are missing is how pissed off the electorate are at what's been going on, and at the
see,
communists being elected, and at the all the Muslim crap. And
yeah, yeah.
it's just, I don't think they're going to allow the Democrats to take control.
Yeah, well, you see, I see salty Republican rockers getting involved. He's saying that the midterms will determine the fate of the United States. Would you agree with that, Adrian? Because I think that, yeah, you're probably right, salty Republican rocker too, that, if things go wrong, and at the moment, Adrian, you're getting the Red-Green Alliance in the States, the Muslim commie kind of coming together. And it seems to be getting the motivated woke vote out, young woke people out. And yeah, things could go very badly astray. And I know you're a big Trump supporter, but I'm certainly worried about what comes after Trump. But I worry, like Paddy, about what might happen in only a couple of months' time in November.
No, I don't. I don't. I think he sowed the seeds well. You think like Trump's been there for 10 years. He's been banging the same drum for 10 years. He's been trying to waken people up. And it's a lot of young people are actually on the Trump train. A lot of young people. I do believe some of the races will be tight. I do believe they will still try and cheat like they always do. But I do believe he'll get control of the House and the Senate. And once he has control of both commandingly, I think that's when things will really, really change.
Yeah. See, where I have the problem is, Adrian and Paddy, I think that the problem is that the Republican Party is rotten. They wouldn't pass the SAVE Act, which was fundamental. They won't do it. And therefore, they're sowing the seeds of their own destruction.
Intentionally.
But why?
That's the $1,000 question. Here's the thing. You got, there's maybe 40 worthwhile representatives in the House and maybe 10 in the Senate. The rest are just go along. And the leadership of the Republicans, they're so corrupt. They got Mitch McConnell, who I don't care what anybody says, is either brain dead or physically dead, who's now working from home. You got Thune, who has not, we have a thing in the United States called recess appointments. A recess appointment is when Congress takes their multiple vacations. The president can fill any open positions with anybody he wants, period. Now, every president has done this, and every president in history has done this, except Donald Trump. The Republican Senate has not once allowed the Congress to be set as fully dismissed. They hold these per forma openings that basically say that they're not closed to prevent Trump from putting anybody in any position, and it's the first time in history. This has been a betrayal by the Senate Republicans for every one of his terms.
Yeah. See, my problem is that Trump stands between America and hell, and it's so disappointing that the significant parts of the Republican Party, aren't helping him at all. I mean, they didn't even want him to be there, if we're honest about it, in the first place. So just to get my credentials out there, I still stand 100% behind President Trump, and we can have the odd disagreement and the odd thing, but that's where we are. Right. I want to move on for the last few moments to something that's going to be a memory test for all of you guys, probably even you, young Adrian, and that is today is in the UK. It's what's called A-level results day, when kids who have been doing their A-levels get their whatever their results are, and surprise, surprise, they're better than ever, much more grade A pluses than ever. Oh, it's wonderful! Yeah, a round of salary increases to all our teachers. And then the number of applications to university is apparently, I read today, this really depressed me, it's the highest it's ever been, right? And I'm thinking, I can just about recall when I was 18 and getting my A-level results. And I did go to university, I have to say. In retrospect, I'm not sure it was the best thing. But anyway, I did. But now, Adrian, I'll come to you first in this one. There's many good reasons at once you've got your A-levels not to go within a million of the university. I put it to you, in many areas.
Oh, very much so. Unless you're going to do a classic of law, medicine, architecture, I think the rest is just a pile of shit, excuse the language. As much as we were disappointed in this household last year when results didn't come our way, I'm sort of glad, because the cost alone, these kids are in a debt cycle before they even get to start to really live their lives. So they're trapped where they have to start producing goods and services. But it's not even that. The exams are being dumbed down now to make it look as if the schools and the education service is doing a wonderful job. The reality is our kids are even stupider now than you go back 30, 40 years ago.
When you were stupid.
Oh, yes, I know. I still am, actually. Still am. But you know yourself, like a lot of these kids are leaving school and have no street smarts, no common sense. They might seem book smart because of a paper result, but half of them don't know their arse from their elbow. And I'm sorry for the language, but it's true. And I think the whole process of our young people needs looked at, to be brutally honest. University should be back to the top 10%. The upper echelons of students who are academically gifted should be able to go. The rest should be not forced, but given the option of you can either do a few years military service where you can learn a skill and a trade, or you can go to some form of technical college where you can progress in different industries. But the fact that universities are free for all and they're willing just to take your money, it just shows you how the standards fall.
Well, Chad, I'm coming to you in a second, but just, Adrian, to wrap that bit up, though, you're right, absolutely spot on in all you said. But the way it works is that the universities get the money because the students get the debt, but the debt's never going to be repaid. So ultimately, Jed, it's you, Jed, and all other taxpayers who are going to fund this. It's really not the students. They fund back, I think it's 2% a year or whatever. So they're never going to repay the debt. You're going to repay it, Jed. And so what's your view on, what do you think, would you agree with what Adrian's saying, that only about 10% of those who get A-level results in a day like today should be heading to uni, the most academically focused, let's say? What do you think?
I've always said, for those who do the real sciences, the real degrees, I'm quite happy for them to have it for free, like it used to be when I was of that age. Yeah. And it was the most elite that went to university. They became the doctors, they became the engineers, whatever it was, okay? And the chemists and whatever, right? And I'm happy for that. It's the fact that it's 50% of all school leavers now going for Mickey Mouse degrees, again, as been stated, piling up debt that they will never pay off, but I will, because why they're accumulating that debt, and a lot of them will stay in higher education for many, many, many years. I'm paying that debt, yet I never had the opportunity to go to university. Why? Because I came from the hard school of knocks, and I left school with at 16 with 4 exams. The 4 exams that you had to take: English, maths, and 2 others, whatever they were. I'm sure history was one of them, whatever it was. And I left, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do with my life? So I did get some jobs, and they were more laboring type jobs, not non-skilled jobs. And I thought to myself, I have to better myself. I can do better. I'm more of a practical person. I'm more of a doer rather than a thinker. And I joined the army. And since then, in theory, I haven't looked back. Would I do my military career again with the state of the army now? No, absolutely not. But it put me sat here tonight with everybody listening in, and you 3 guys discussing politics and discussing the state of our country. And I just think we've got to stop convincing our young, by that age, our young adults, that university is the only option. It is not. It's actually the least preferred option, because there are now so many people with degrees flipping burgers at McDonald's. Don't get me wrong. We need people to flip burgers at McDonald's, yeah, until they automate that process, never mind the ordering process. But my point is, you don't need a degree for that.
Yeah, again, great points, Jed, there. I totally agree. And actually, even going to university for the STEM subjects, the maths and the hard sciences. But with AI coming along, I think a lot of that is also going to be questioned. But the truth of the matter is that when I went to uni, it was the top 10% that went, and so I didn't have debt. My parents paid for my accommodation, which was relatively modest. I think it was £300 a year back in the day. And that was it. That was the total sum of it. But that was only possible because 10% of the population, Jed, went back then. Now it's 50%. So the model is broken, but I'll tell you who's benefited from it enormously.
We've lost you, David.
Oh God, right.
I did.
Sounds like you jumped in the shower.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see young people graded at school, as in, you know, sent to colleges where you've got not a flair for art, so you could be going into the design world, you could be going into computer aided design. You know, I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis on careers and skills and abilities rather than just. I was speaking to a young girl last week, and she wants to go to university in England, and I'm like, how are you going to fund it? And she hasn't thought about that. Her only concern is getting that university place in Liverpool. Never mind the fact that she's going to pay an extra £5,000 a year compared to Northern Ireland. There's going to be interest on that. She hasn't even thought about the financial impact and how that's going to hang over her head for the next 20, 30 years. And it just shows you how warped it has become, because the drive is just get a university place, never mind the bigger picture that evolves around it.
Well, yeah, that's good. Listen, because my sound's so awful, I think we're going to have to wrap this one up. I don't want to vanish. Can you hear me just while I'm doing this wee wrap
Yeah, we
up
can
there?
just about hear you, David. You're in and out, but it's
Yeah,
half
I
past
don't know.
9 now anyway.
It is 9:30. Northern Monkey says, but who will make my coffee in Pret? Jed, he's asking you that.
Well, these boat people, because clearly that's we need so many people in Pret and
Well,
Costa and Starbucks.
yeah, well, you see, plus we won't need, Adrian, people going to uni to do engineering and science, because the people coming across the channel are all engineers, rocket scientists.
Oh,
But
I can't
again, though,
wait, because
David, sorry, Adrian.
I was just going to say these guys are going to whip the NHS into some shape with all these doctors that we've got. So waiting times will be down to 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
just going to say, David now knows the power of AI, don't you, David?
I am learning the power of
Yeah,
AI.
you definitely are, with all the thumbnails and stuff that you're doing, and the new website. Just before we go, because I want to get it in, because you never push it enough, David. If you enjoyed the show, buy David a coffee. We need the money. Give us your money. That's what we want. And please support him over on the Substack as well. Some great articles and the new David Vance layout of his website, which I think, David, you're using AI to help you with this.
We are indeed, and it's beginning to look,
A
better.
lot like Christmas.
You beat me to it.
We're getting there. All the digital assets are being optimized, and you'll see if you. I also would urge everyone, by the way, make sure you follow me over on Rumble, because you're going to see some different stuff going out over there, and exclusive on Rumble as well. So just spreading the wings. But listen, I've kept you all long enough. Thanks so much for being in the studio with me, guys. Thanks to Paddy. Appreciate you, Paddy, as always. Adrian, appreciate it. Jed, of course, for masterminding it. And despite my dodgy sound, as Jed says, I'm not at my normal location. So next week it will be all as crystal-like as normal. But listen, and the best to you as well, Republican Rocker and everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the Substack in the morning. I've got a whole piece written about Clacton. You might want to read that. And catch up with you guys real soon. But from Jed, Adrian, Paddy, and myself, have a great night. And thank you so much for being here. Good night.